The whole world is holding its breath as a new and dangerous chapter of conflict unfolds in the Middle East. By June 2025, the long-simmering tensions between Iran and Israel have exploded into a full-blown war. This has drawn in global powers and threatens to destabilize the entire region. This isn't some far-off conflict fought with old weapons. This is modern warfare with devastating consequences. Recent reports confirm the situation has gotten much worse, with airstrikes hitting the heart of major cities. Hundreds of lives have already been lost, and important buildings, including hospitals and civilian centers, have been destroyed. This conflict is a clear example of how quickly political disagreements can turn into violent clashes, with ordinary people bearing the brunt of it. It's hard to grasp the scale of the destruction. The sound of explosions in Tehran, Iran's capital, has become a terrifying reality. According to Iran's Ministry of Health, at least 400 people have died in the airstrikes, including Red Crescent aid workers who came to help. In response, Iran has launched its own missile attacks on Israeli cities, creating a cycle of revenge that deepens the conflict. Life for civilians on both sides has been turned upside down. Millions in Tehran have been forced to leave their homes, searching for safe places from the constant bombing. The damage to medical facilities, like a clinic for children with autism, highlights the unfair nature of modern warfare, where the most vulnerable often suffer the most. This war isn't just a regional disagreement, it has global consequences. The involvement of major world powers has greatly increased the danger, turning a two-sided conflict into a complex international crisis. The world is connected, and a war of this size sends shockwaves across continents, affecting economies, diplomatic relationships, and the balance of global power. Each missile launch and each city targeted adds another layer of complexity, making it harder to find a path to peace. The international community is divided, with nations taking sides and issuing statements of condemnation or support, which further complicates any possible peaceful solution. There's a fear that this conflict could spread, pulling in more countries and leading to a bigger, more destructive war. For people living far from the battlefields, it might be easy to see this as just another news story. However, the events unfolding in the Middle East are a critical concern for everyone. This conflict threatens important global trade routes, has the potential to disrupt energy supplies, and could trigger a worldwide economic downturn. It serves as a strong lesson about how fragile peace is and the huge responsibility leaders have to pursue dialogue instead of destruction. As we follow the news, it's crucial to understand the situation, the main players involved, and the possible effects this war has not just for the Middle East, but for the entire global community, including us here in India. The way this war was going changed a lot when the United States got directly involved. In a big move, America, who has been Israel's friend for a long time, joined the fight by dropping powerful bombs on 3 of Iran's nuclear sites. US President Donald Trump publicly said that this operation was a success. This statement made the conflict much bigger, turning it from a regional war into a direct fight between Washington and Tehran. There have been mixed reactions from other countries about this action. Even though it made America's support for Israel stronger, it also brought a huge risk of starting a much bigger war. Iran has already given strong warnings, threatening to get back at American military bases all over the Middle East. This has put about 40,000 US soldiers on high alert. While America chose to get directly involved, another big global power, Russia, surprisingly made a different choice. Even though Iran has been Russia's friend for a long time, President Vladimir Putin reportedly said no to giving direct military help to Tehran in this fight. This decision has left Iran mostly on its own, forcing it to face the combined military strength of Israel and the United States by itself. Experts are guessing about Russia's reasons. Some experts believe that by staying out of the direct fighting, Russia benefits from its rival, the United States, having to move its resources and attention away from other conflicts, like the one in Ukraine. This strategic silence from Moscow is a key part of how power is balanced right now. It shows how countries put their own interests first, even during a global crisis. Several countries have criticized America's involvement. The Prime Minister of Norway said that the US airstrikes were against international law. China shared this same feeling and called for the fighting to stop right away and for talks to begin again. This disagreement among countries shows that there are big differences in how to handle such conflicts. Also, America's focus on giving weapons to Israel has had a clear effect somewhere else. Reports say that the flow of military help to Ukraine has slowed down because weapons and supplies are now being sent to help Israel's war efforts. This shows that even a big power has limited resources and how a new conflict can completely change global priorities overnight. The situation is like a complicated chess game of international relations, where every move has big consequences. America's strong approach aims to weaken Iran's power, but it also risks starting a fire that will be hard to control. Meanwhile, Russia's refusal to help its friend shows a practical, maybe even self-serving way of handling foreign policy. For Iran, this means facing a powerful enemy without the help it expected. This complex web of friends and betrayals makes the conflict so unstable. It has the power to change the political map of the Middle East and beyond for many years to come. At the heart of the economic fears surrounding this war is a narrow but critically important waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. This strait is a narrow channel of water connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, and it's the world's most important oil shipping choke point. Think of it as a superhighway for oil tankers. A huge chunk of the world's oil supply, especially oil meant for major Asian economies like China, Japan, and India, passes through this strait every day. Iran's location gives it a lot of control over this route. In response to attacks on its land, Iran has threatened to close or mine the Strait of Hormuz, an action that would send immediate and severe shockwaves through the global economy. If Iran were to act on this threat, the effects on global energy markets would be devastating. Closing the strait is like blocking a main artery to the heart of the world's oil supply. About 80% of the oil and gas that Asia imports from the Persian Gulf goes through this route. Closing it would immediately stop millions of barrels of oil from traveling, creating a huge supply crisis. The basic rule of economics tells us what happens next. When supply drops and demand stays high, prices skyrocket. Global oil prices wouldn't just go up. They'd reach unheard-of levels, sparking a worldwide energy crisis that would affect every country, rich or poor. The threat isn't just limited to the Strait of Hormuz. Adding to the instability, Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen have announced their intention to restart attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea. This opens another front in the battle for control of global shipping lanes and further puts energy security at risk. For shipping companies, these threats mean the cost and risk of transporting goods, especially oil, will go up dramatically. They might have to take longer, more expensive routes to avoid conflict zones or pay huge insurance premiums. Ultimately, these higher costs get passed on to consumers, leading to inflation and economic hardship worldwide. This uncertain situation highlights how fragile our globalized world is, relying so much on a few key sea routes for its economic stability. The Strait of Hormuz is more than just a line on a map. It's the lifeline of the global economy. The threat of its closure acts as a powerful weapon for Iran, a way to inflict economic pain on its opponents and their allies without firing a single missile. For the rest of the world, it's a scary reminder of how a regional conflict can hold the entire global economy hostage, turning a faraway war into a personal problem for people everywhere. For India, the conflict between Iran and Israel isn't just news from far away. It's a direct threat to our financial stability and the daily lives of our people. Our country is one of the biggest buyers of crude oil in the world, and a big chunk of that oil comes from the Persian Gulf. This means we really depend on oil tankers moving freely and safely through the Strait of Hormuz. If that important waterway gets blocked, India would be one of the first and most severely affected countries. The immediate effect would be felt at every gas station in India. A shock to the global oil supply would surely cause a sharp and painful rise in gas and diesel prices across the country. This increase in fuel prices would start a chain reaction, leading to widespread inflation. Imagine the cost of moving vegetables from the farm to your local market. When diesel gets more expensive, transportation costs go up, and the prices of vegetables, fruits, and other important items would rise accordingly. This isn't just a theory, it's something we've faced before. Higher fuel costs mean higher production costs for factories and higher operating costs for businesses, all of which eventually get passed on to the customers. This means the price of everything, from everyday groceries to household items, could go up, putting a lot of pressure on the monthly budget of every Indian family. The financial effects go beyond our household expenses. An increase in our oil import bill would put huge pressure on India's economy. We would have to spend more of our valuable foreign money to buy the same amount of oil, which could lead to the Indian rupee getting weaker. A weaker rupee makes not only oil, but all imports more expensive, which would push inflation up even more. This mix of higher inflation, a weaker currency, and rising production costs could slow down our country's economic growth. In response to this crisis, the Indian government would be forced to explore difficult choices, like finding other oil suppliers from different regions, which is not a quick or easy process. In these challenging times, the wish for peace becomes more than just a noble feeling. It becomes a practical need for global stability and our own well-being. The conflict in the Middle East is a strong reminder of how connected our world is. A war happening thousands of miles away can directly affect our ability to afford basic needs. It highlights the urgent need for talking and diplomacy to solve disagreements before they turn into destructive wars. As a nation, we must hope that world leaders find the wisdom to calm the situation and work towards lasting peace. For the sake of the people suffering in the conflict zone and for the stability of our own future, peace is the only practical way forward.